The surface froze and popped the surface off this. We just did this last year. They said they didn't use any de-icing salt, so it looks like just freeze-thaw damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a stampable overlay over this, grind off any remaining concrete sealer we put on, and just get it ready for Monday. This is a Friday. You drink a lot, right?
I'm glad we're doing this brushing machine because there's all kinds of dry spots. Yeah.
Got our mixing station all set up over here. Using a couple different mixers today. We're using both by Column Mix, so we're trying out this Levy mix from Column Mix. They just sent us that and wanted us to try this Levy mix. So we'll be able to put product, you know, put the water in, put the product in, it mixes it for us. We can wheel it over to where we need it and dump it. We got Decocrete's stampable overlay mix here, putting down 3/8 of an inch. Goes about 16 to 18 square feet at 3/8 of an inch. And then we got a couple more mixers over there. If we want to get 2 mixing stations going, we can use one of those mixers and one of those big buckets there. Got some poly up along the pool. That's like a hot tub pool, swimming pool, like a lap type thing, so there's a current in that they can just swim in there. That covers up, you know, 20 by 860 square feet of this thing. So we're definitely not getting under that and then not moving it. So we're just going to do what you can see here for concrete, which is about 380 square feet. All right, so we're pairing the stamped concrete with a stampable concrete overlay. Like I told you, this is from Decocrete Supply in Ohio. The stampable overlay we're using, we're going to put it down at 3/8 of an inch. You can go down a little thicker if you need to. You can go 1/2 inch. You could go 5/8. This stamped concrete pad that we did a year before is pretty flat, so we can go 3/8 of an inch over the whole thing. Now, freeze and thaw damage, you know, we live in Maine. We get a lot of freeze-thaw cycles from December to March, so that's probably the case here. Is, you know, just had some freeze and thaw damage is why the surface started peeling off this thing. It could be umpteen things. I mean, the owner could have put some de-icing salts on it. We did seal it. I sealed it 3 times when we got done stamping this originally, so it had good sealer on it. So who knows? Who knows? But what we're here today to learn how to do is put a stampable overlay over. You know, it could be stamped concrete. It could be just regular broom-finished concrete. You could put this stuff over any type of concrete, really. The key is the prep, getting it down to sound concrete, clean it, put the bonding agent on like you saw in the beginning of the video. That's why I had to grind the whole surface, get it down to really good hard concrete again, clean it up really good by pressure washing it, and then letting it dry out, putting the bonding agent down. So here we are, we're mixing up the overlay, and that's what it looks like. It goes down pretty liquid, you know. We got a gauge rake that Luke's using, and that gauge rake is set to 3/8 of an inch. So he just kind of rakes it around, gets it to 3/8 of an inch. We got a bunch of guys here actually. 2 of these guys are actually reps. They actually work for Decocrete. So they drove here to Maine with the product. So we could use the product, put it on the video to show you guys just how good it works. And then a couple other guys here, the guy in the white t-shirt and the guy way over on the left, kind of in the darker t-shirt on the left, are just guys. The guy in the white works for himself and the other guy works for him, and they had never done an overlay before. They live here in Maine, so they found out from Decocrete we were doing this. He called me up and he's like, do you mind if we just come and either watch or help so we can learn how to do this? So those 2 guys are here just learning how to do this for the first time. And then, of course, there's me, Darren, and Luke here. So that's why there's so many guys here today. Usually it would just be me, Darren, and Luke doing this, 3 of us. You know, Darren and Luke would usually be mixing. I'd be spreading it out. And then, you know, the 3 of us would really be hustling to get this down, especially in the sun. So again, we got the mixing station going. We decided to get 2 mixing kind of like barrels going, one with the Levy mix and then one by hand, just to speed things up a little bit. We really want to be able to get all this down. You can see the sun's coming up on that far end, and it's going to get hot today, so we want to get this all down before we got to go back and start stamping it. And that's really the key is, if you haven't done this before, definitely don't bite off more than you can chew. Maybe start on a small one to get used to just the setup times, and if you're going to stamp it, get used to how to stamp it. If you want to learn more about this, check out the Concrete Underground. I got my trainings in there. This training will be in there. So you can learn how to do overlays, and how to repair stuff using an overlay. You see Luke there just raking it out at 3/8 of an inch. Going, we like to keep that wet edge, and we'll just rake it back and forth. Try to keep the gauge rake handle at the same height as you're pulling it back. If you need to fill in a little area, you can push a little back up in there, then just rake it back. And now I'm stepping in there with what's called a smoother. So I don't have to get it like perfectly smooth or anything, but I'm just taking out some marks maybe left by the gauge rake. You can see right there, I just kind of let that float over it. I got spikes on that I'm walking into the stuff with, so I can walk right back into the stuff without having to get my shoes wet. Those are spikes. And then gauge rake it just somewhat smooth. Now remember, we're going to be stamping this again the same texture that we stamped it in the original concrete. So it's going to have some texture to it. So I don't have to be like real fussy with the smoother. I just want to get out any of the lines that might be left by the gauge rake. Any overflow maybe from the edges of the gauge rake. It helps just smooth those edges out a little bit and just makes it look a little better and getting it ready for stamping. That levy mix from Columix works really good. It's got the mixing paddle in it. You could put 3 bags in there if you really wanted to pretty easily. Just add the water, plug it in. Make sure your mixes are good, and it takes about 2 minutes to mix up 2 or 3 bags like that. When we use these overlays, we always add the recommended amount of water to the bucket first. And then if you're going to add color to it, we are adding a gray color to this. Add the color to the water. Get that mixed into the water first, and then add your bags in and mix like we're doing right here. Get that mixed up. Add in your second bag. Get that mixed up. And as long as you're pretty careful with measuring out your water supply, your bag mixes should all mix out to the same looseness, I guess, if you want to call it. Fairly loose. Not quite self-leveling, but this is how they're designed to go down like this, fairly loose. You can see how that's looking. It's starting to look pretty good. Getting up all that damaged concrete covered up. And then, as soon as we get done this, we got to let it set up for a little bit before we can get on it with stamping. But that's the basic process right there. Now we're going to go down around the edge of that swimming pool kind of hot tub thing. There's a very thin strip that goes down that back edge, and that'll finish it up. Alright, so that's the basic process. You get the mixing station, you got the guys mixing, they dumping, you got a guy gauge raking it out, guy smoothing it, guy doing the edges. So that's the basic overlay process right there. Now it's just a matter of, letting it set up and cure up enough so you can get on it with the stamps. And that's kind of similar to concrete in that way. So basically with an overlay like this 3/8 of an inch, you want to be able to touch it with your hand. It's going to still be soft, but when you pick your hand up, you don't want any overlay mix on your hand. So you want it soft, but the surface has to be dry. And again, it's only 3/8 of an inch, so if you put the stamp on, you really can't sink that much because it's got concrete right under it. But so that'll be the process. We'll be back in a few minutes for that, and we'll show you how that's going to work. All right, we're just ready to get started. It's been about 30 minutes or so after we got the overlay laid down. So here we go. There's definitely a learning curve to timing this to get on it right. If you get on it too early, when you step on these stamps, you're going to kind of squish it out from under the stamps. If you get on it too late, then you're not going to leave a very good impression from the stamps into the surface. And it's so thin that the timing is really key. And learning that timing takes a little bit of practice, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then also knowing, like where we're starting right here, we're starting there because the sun was beating on there pretty good first. So even though that's not where we started the overlay, we started the overlay on that edge up to the right. That was in the shade for quite a bit. So what we know about doing this, you know, what experience tells us is where we finished the overlay pour, way back there to the left, has been in the sun for quite a while. So we got to get down this edge and then work our way not just to the right, but also to the left. So we can get that part that's been in the sun for quite a while before it cures up too fast, and we're not gonna get a very good impression in there with a stamp. So we know that from experience by having done this a lot. We still got a little bit in the shade up here in the front, so that's not setting up too quick on us. But when you get stuff in the sun like this, you have stuff in the sun, stuff in the shade, you know, you really kind of have to know what you're doing. And if you're just starting out doing this, or if you want to learn this, you know, you got to learn on something that's a lot smaller and just get the feel for it under your feet. Now, the two guys in the black kind of t-shirts are from Decocrete. They're reps from Decocrete that came out to help us with this. Although we didn't really need help, they just wanted to come out and, you know, get this stuff in the video, like I said earlier. But they've done some of this before. They had a little bit of an idea how to do this. They don't do it like we do, but so they had a little bit of a clue about how this stuff works. And then the other two guys that came here to learn today, you know, they're staying on the outside edge, kind of helping us work the edges and kind of learning that way. And then we got some touch-up tools, you know, just touching up the joints as we go. Like I said, if you get on this stuff too early, and then you go to step on the stamp, you're going to kind of squish it. Sometimes you'll squish it right up in between the stamps where the seams are, and then you just want to have to touch them joints up. Very similar. That's kind of very similar to stamping regular concrete. Sometimes if you get on concrete too early, you'll do the same thing. So we're starting to move down that left edge as well as finishing up this piece here at the same time. Another thing that's pretty important is if you're doing something of any size like this, just to make sure you have enough stamp mats to be able to, you know, maybe to go in a couple different directions and not have to pull them all up and go one way and then come back and restart to go the other way. You want to be able to always work off the edge of a previous stamp that's been laid down there. That helps keep your joints a lot straighter if they have straight lines like these ones do. So we got this right part done now. You can see that looks pretty good. We're using a little bit of color in our liquid release. You can just use straight, clear liquid release and then come back and teak wash this afterwards with a coloring agent the following day when you come back to wash it. Or you could just throw a little bit of, we threw a little bit of charcoal release right in the clear liquid in the spray bottle, mixed it up. And then as Darren's spraying the release on there, you get a little bit of color in the liquid release itself. We got a nice little couple roller textures there. We go back and we just, if we see a, you know, if we see a stone that we think we needs a little bit more texture, maybe we'll just touch it up with the roller. That way, that helps speed things up. That way you don't have to, you know, if you pick up your stamp and then you look and you're like, oh, that doesn't have quite enough texture on it, I think I got to put the stamp back down, hit it again. That slows things down a little bit. So having the stamp roller, as you can see us using those, just helps speed things up. And then you can also see us using the joint touch-up tool there quite a bit, touching up the joints, making sure they all look really good as we're doing this. Looking good. We're almost finished up. Definitely goes fast with a bunch of guys, so that's a big bonus. Getting down this other end, it's firming up pretty good, so we got it under control. So if you want to learn these techniques, join the Concrete Underground. I'm in there with my trainings. We got repair trainings in there, how to use overlays, how to do smooth overlays, how to do stampable overlays like this. You can really fix a lot of damaged concrete with an overlay like this without having to rip the concrete out. Alright, so the timing was just right on that. It's coming out really, really good. See, it's got a lot of modeling color to it. The texture's good on it. Remember, that's only 3/8 of an inch thick, so the concrete below it's not very far down there. Getting down to this end. This end's been in the sun for a little bit, so we just got to make sure as we pull the stamps that we got good texture. Tamp them maybe a little bit harder down this end. But overall, it's coming out really, really nice.
Going off the stick. I think with that color, like you said earlier, Mike, you can get a nice like mulching effect.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool, don't it?
Yeah.
All right, so let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this process. You know, if it's something you think you could do or something you think you want to learn. We really like the Decocrete stampable overlay product. It mixed up really well. You know, sometimes you'll buy these products and you'll mix them and you'll get like little tiny clumps in it as you go to dump them out. This one mixed up nice and smooth. Kind of went down like pancake batter, I guess, if I was going to describe it. And then it leveled out really good with the gauge rate. And the smoother, everything went really good, which really makes the stamping process go much easier and faster too. So you can see us, we're just getting down to the very end of this thing, just making sure all the texture looks good on all the stones. Putting the impression in there, just our body weight. We didn't even really need to use a tamper today. You can use a tamper, but we didn't really need to today because of the timing of the process. When all went pretty smoothly. And again, I can't stress how much those roller textures are really handy. You know, I have links for those down in the description of the video if you want to check them out and order some if you don't have any of those. Whether you're just stamping regular concrete or if you're going to get into doing some overlays like this, you really should have some of those rollers. There's different textures to them. There's different sizes to them. We use that 9-inch one on everything we do, though. That has like a slate texture to it. And then we pick up the last stamp, take a look, and touch it up right there. And that's kind of what it looks like. All right, so that's basically it for today. We're gonna clean up, get out of here, let it cure up real good. Tomorrow we'll come back, we'll wash it, get all the residue off from the liquid release. If there is any powdered release left on there that was in the liquid, we'll, you know, scrub that off. And then we gotta let it dry. We'll recut the saw joints too. There was some saw cuts in here from the previous one, so we'll get those recut in tomorrow. And then we just gotta let it cure up another day and we'll come back and seal it. So we'll see you tomorrow. Right. I don't know if we got this one or not, but I'll throw it right here. A good coloring on this. It's really mottled. guys think. Let me know down in the comments what you think of how that looks. This D1 sealer works really, really good. Don't have to cut it. Like I said, it sprays out really nice. These are really nice finish on that. So that's it, guys. 2 coats of sealer, stampable overlay, repaired some freeze and thawed damaged stamped concrete, make it look like brand new again. That's the way to do it right there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.